the mockery, and the secret. 200 years had passed since the day that changed everything. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of the hidden research facility, watching the Pacific Ocean stretch endlessly toward the horizon. Below the waves, 3 kilometers down in the Mariana Trench, lay the discovery that would reshape humanity's destiny. She remembered the stories her grandmother had told her about that fateful day when the Galactic Council first arrived at Earth. The massive ships had appeared without warning, their hulls gleaming like silver mirrors against the black of space. Humanity had been so excited, so hopeful. First contact with alien civilizations meant they were no longer alone in the universe. The meeting had taken place in Geneva, with world leaders gathered to welcome Earth into the galactic community. The Council representatives were impressive beings. The Zephyrians stood tall and elegant, their crystalline skin refracting light in rainbow patterns. The Corvin delegation moved with mechanical precision, their cybernetic enhancements gleaming under the conference room lights. The Thrakari ambassador floated in a containment field, its gaseous form shifting between colors that had no names in human language. But the excitement had died quickly. "Your species shows promise," High Chancellor Vextai had said, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 worlds. "But your technology is centuries behind acceptable standards. Your ships cannot even breach the speed of light. Your weapons are chemical-based projectiles. Your computing systems are binary and slow." The laughter that followed still echoed. In human memory, it wasn't cruel laughter, which might have been easier to bear. It was the gentle, patronizing laughter of adults watching children play with toy blocks. "Perhaps in 300 or 400 years, when you have developed proper technology, we might reconsider," Vextai had continued. "Until then, we must classify Earth as a pre-contact civilization. We will place monitoring stations at the edge of your system, but direct contact is forbidden." The delegation had departed the next day, leaving behind only a warning. "Do not attempt to leave your system. Do not try to contact us. Any aggressive expansion will be met with correction." Sarah's fingers tightened on the observation decks. Railing, the humiliation had been complete. Humanity had been weighed, measured, and found wanting. News broadcasts around the world had shown the alien ships departing, their engines creating beautiful aurora displays as they jumped to faster-than-light speeds that humans could only dream of achieving. But something had changed in humanity. That day, the mocking laughter had planted a seed of determination that grew in the darkness. Within a year, every space program on Earth had been quietly nationalized. Satellites were decommissioned, space stations abandoned, and all traces of human expansion beyond the atmosphere systematically erased. To any watching alien sensors, it appeared that humanity had given up on space exploration entirely. The truth was far different. Dr. James Harper, Sarah's predecessor and mentor, had been the first to propose the Deep Earth Initiative. "If they're watching the skies," he had said, "then we go the other direction. We dig deeper than any species has ever thought to look." The project had taken 50 years to complete, using advanced drilling technology developed in secret. Humanity had carved research facilities into the deepest parts of Earth's crust. The Mariana facility where Sarah now worked was the crown jewel, a massive complex built into the walls of the deepest trench on the planet. It was there, in the crushing darkness of the deep ocean, that humanity had made its greatest discovery. The precursor ruins had been found by accident. A geological survey team had been mapping the trench floor when their deep-sea rover had detected unusual metal compositions. What they found changed everything. The structure was ancient beyond measure. its walls carved from materials that human science couldn't identify. But it was clearly artificial, clearly the work of intelligent beings, and it was filled with technology that made even the Galactic Council's achievements look primitive. Sarah walked through the facility's corridors, past laboratories where Earth's best scientists worked in absolute secrecy. The precursor technology was beyond anything in known space. Their computers operated on quantum principles that allowed instantaneous calculation across vast distances. Their power sources tapped into the fundamental forces of the universe itself. But the most incredible discovery was the teleportation. Matrices, the precursors, had mastered the art of moving matter instantaneously across space. Not just small objects, but entire structures. The mathematics was staggering, requiring computational power that humanity had only recently achieved by reverse engineering precursor quantum processors. Dr. Chen entered the main laboratory where her team was preparing for the day's test. The prototype teleportation chamber stood in the center of the room, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. "Status report," she said to her lead engineer, Dr. Marcus Webb. "All systems are green, Dr. Chen," Webb replied, his eyes bright with excitement. "The quantum field generators are stable, and the navigation array is locked onto the target coordinates." Sarah nodded, feeling the familiar mix of anticipation and anxiety that came with each test. They had been working on this project for 15 years, building on the discoveries of previous teams. The early experiments had been promising but small-scale. They had successfully teleported individual atoms, then molecules, then small objects. But today's test was different. Today, they would attempt to teleport their first full-scale prototype, a 20-meter spacecraft equipped with its own teleportation. "Matrix, initiate the sequence," Sarah ordered. The chamber began to hum with power. The precursor patterns on its surface grew brighter, cycling through colors that human eyes had never seen before. The ship inside began to shimmer, its solid form becoming translucent, and then, in an instant, it was gone. "Telemetry confirms successful translation," Webb reported, his voice barely containing his excitement. "The ship has appeared at the target. Coordinates 200 kilometers away. All systems are functioning normally." Sarah allowed herself a moment of triumph. They had done it. Humanity had mastered interstellar teleportation technology, but their celebration was interrupted by an urgent alarm. Admiral James Torres, the military liaison to the project, strode into the laboratory with grim determination. "Dr. Chen," he said, his voice tight with concern, "we have a problem. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected massive fleet movements in the outer system. The Galactic Council is mobilizing for war." Sarah felt her blood turn cold. "War against whom?" "Against us," Torres replied. "Intelligence suggests they've grown concerned about our technological stagnation. They've decided that Earth represents a potential threat to galactic stability. They're planning a preemptive strike." The weight of the situation settled on Sarah's shoulders. For 2 centuries, humanity had played the part of the primitive, harmless species. They had hidden their greatest achievements in the deepest places on Earth, working in secret while the galaxy forgot about them. But now the masquerade was ending. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Our scouts estimate 6 months before the council." "Fleet arrives," Torres said. "They're bringing everything. Dreadnoughts, planetary bombardment ships, an entire armada designed to eliminate what they see as a developing threat." Sarah looked around the laboratory at the faces of her team. These were the men and women who had dedicated their lives to this moment. They had worked in darkness and secrecy, knowing that the future of their species might depend on their success. "Then we'd better get to work," she said. "How many ships can we have ready?" Admiral Torres smiled grimly. "We've been preparing for this day for decades. Dr. Chen, the shipyards in the Atlantic Deep facility have been working around the clock. We have 200 vessels ready for deployment, each equipped with precursor teleportation technology." Sarah's eyes widened. She had known about the military applications of their research, but she hadn't realized the scale of the operation. 200 ships, she whispered, each one capable of appearing anywhere in the galaxy instantly. Torres continued. "Each one armed with weapons that the Council has never seen before. They think they're coming to destroy a primitive civilization." He paused, looking out at the dark ocean beyond the facility's windows. "They have no idea what's waiting for them." The next 6 months passed in a blur of activity. The deep Earth facilities hummed with purpose as humanity's secret navy prepared for the greatest battle in their history. The ships were unlike anything that had ever existed. Sleek and deadly, they were built around the precursor teleportation matrices, allowing them to appear and disappear at will. Sarah worked tirelessly, fine-tuning the teleportation systems and training the crews who would operate them. These were volunteers, men and women who understood that they were about to make history. As the deadline approached, she found herself standing once again on the observation deck, watching the sun set over the Pacific. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of the solar system, the Galactic Council's fleet was preparing for what they thought would be a simple extermination mission. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. Admiral Torres joined her, his expression serious but confident. Asterisk. "Are you ready, Dr. Chen?" he asked. Sarah looked at the peaceful ocean, knowing that in a few hours everything would change. Humanity would finally reveal itself to the galaxy, not as the primitive species they had pretended to be, but as inheritors of technology that predated the Council itself. "We've been ready for 200 years, she replied. "Let's show them what humans can do when they're underestimated." Asterisk. The Reckoning. High Chancellor Vextai stood on the bridge of the Galactic Council flagship Infinite Justice, watching the blue planet grow larger on the main display. Earth looked exactly as he remembered it from 2 centuries ago, peaceful and primitive. The monitoring stations at the edge of the system confirmed what the Council had long suspected. Humanity had made no significant technological progress. No new satellites, no deep space vessels, no signs of advanced civilization, perfect for what came next. "Fleet status report," he commanded, his crystalline skin reflecting the bridge lights in sharp rainbow patterns. Commander Throkevel, a massive Corvan with multiple cybernetic limbs, turned from his console. "All ships are in position, High Chancellor. 3,000 vessels arrayed in standard cleansing formation. Dreadnoughts ready for planetary bombardment. Strike cruisers prepared for orbital cleanup. The human military installations we detected are primitive at best." Vexti nodded with satisfaction. The decision to eliminate Earth had not been made lightly. But intelligence reports suggested that humanity was developing along concerning lines. Their population had grown significantly, and there were signs of underground industrial activity that could pose a future threat to galactic stability. Better to end the problem now, before it could develop. "Open a communication channel to the planet," Vextai ordered. "Let them hear their fate before we deliver it." The transmission activated, and Vextai's voice carried across space to Earth. People of Earth, this is High Chancellor Vextai of the Galactic Council. Your species has been evaluated and found to represent a potential threat to galactic peace. By order of the Council, your planet will be cleansed of intelligent life within the next standard hour. This action is taken for the greater good of all civilized species. He closed the channel and turned to his weapons officer. Charge the main batteries. Begin with the major population centers. But as the Council fleet prepared to commence their attack, something unexpected happened. On Earth, in the hidden depths of the Pacific facility, Admiral Torres stood before a massive tactical display showing the positions of every Council ship. The enemy had spread their fleet across a wide area, confident in their overwhelming superiority. It was exactly what humanity had hoped for. All ships report ready, his communications officer announced. Teleportation matrices are charged and targeting solutions are locked. Torres looked around the command center at the faces of his staff. These were the people who had worked in secret for decades, preparing for this moment. They understood the weight of what they were about to do. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, his voice carrying across the facility, for 200 years. The galaxy has seen us as nothing more than primitive animals. Today, we show them who we really are. Operation Silent Thunder is now active. All ships, execute. In orbit above Earth, reality itself seemed to tear apart. The Council fleet, spread across thousands of kilometers, suddenly found themselves facing an impossible sight. Human ships, sleek and deadly, materialized directly within their formations, not approaching from a distance, not dropping out of hyperspace, but simply appearing as if they had always been there. Commander Throckevel stared at his displays in shock. Impossible. Where did they come from? Our sensors showed nothing. But before anyone could answer, the human ships opened fire. The weapons they used were unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, they fired concentrated bursts of quantum energy that seemed to phase through shields and armor as if they didn't exist. Council ships began exploding throughout the fleet, their hulls torn apart by forces that their technology couldn't even detect, let alone defend against. Evasive action, Vextai shouted, but his orders were futile. How could they evade an enemy that could appear anywhere at will? A human destroyer materialized directly off the Infinite Justice's port bow, close enough that Vextai could see the details of its hull through the bridge windows. The ship was beautiful in its deadly simplicity, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Incoming transmission from the human vessel, the communications officer reported, his voice shaking. Put it through, Vextai ordered, his mind struggling to process what was happening. The face that appeared on the main screen was human, but there was something different about it. The woman's eyes held a confidence and knowledge that Vextai had only seen in the most advanced species. This was not the primitive being he had expected. High Chancellor, the human said, her voice calm and professional. I am Captain Elena Vasquez of the Terran Defense Fleet. You have entered our system with hostile intent. You will stand down immediately. This is impossible, Vextai sputtered. Your species barely understands spaceflight. How are you doing this? Captain Vasquez smiled, and there was something chilling in her expression. 200 years ago, you laughed at our primitive technology. You told us we weren't worthy of joining the galactic community. What you didn't realize is that we took your words to heart. Around the battlefield, more human ships continued to appear and disappear at will. striking council vessels and vanishing before return fire could be coordinated. The mighty Galactic Council fleet, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, was being torn apart by an enemy they had dismissed as insignificant. While you were busy ruling your empire, Vasquez continued, we were digging deeper than you ever thought to look. We found something in the depths of our world, something older than your civilization, older than any known species. The precursors left us a gift, Chancellor. They left us the keys to technology that makes your achievements look like children's toys. A massive council dreadnought exploded in the distance, its hull split open by quantum fire. The shockwave reached the infinite. Just as seconds later, rattling the bridge. You want to see primitive? Vasquez asked, her smile growing wider. Let me show you what humans do when we're properly motivated. The human destroyer vanished from sight, only to reappear directly above the council flagship. More human vessels materialized around the infinite justice, surrounding it completely. Their weapons powered up with an ominous hum that seemed to vibrate through the ship's hull. This is your only warning, Vasquez's voice came through the comm system. Order your fleet to withdraw immediately, or we will demonstrate exactly how primitive human technology can be. Vextai looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were beings from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, but they were staring at their displays with expressions of pure terror. The tactical readouts showed the impossible. Their fleet of 3,000 ships was being destroyed by a force of only 200 human vessels. How many species have you exterminated with words like these? Vasquez asked, how many civilizations have you destroyed because they didn't meet your standards? Well, congratulations, Chancellor. You've finally met a species that exceeds them. Through the bridge windows, Vexti could see more human ships appearing throughout the battlefield. Each one moved with impossible grace, teleporting from position to position, striking with precision and disappearing before the council forces could respond. Your teleportation technology, he said, his voice barely a whisper. It's beyond anything we've ever seen. The precursors were very thorough teachers, Vasquez replied. But the real lesson they taught us wasn't about technology. It was about patience, about waiting for the right moment to reveal what you're truly capable of. A proximity alarm suddenly screamed through the infinite justice's bridge. 3 human ships had appeared inside the flagship's shields, their weapons trained on critical systems. You see, Chancellor Vasquez continued, while you were laughing at our primitive rockets and radio waves, we were developing technology that can bypass every defense you have. Our ships don't need to break through your shields because we can appear inside them. Our weapons don't need to overcome your armor because they phase through it. You never stood a chance. The battle was over. Of the 3,000 ships that had arrived to cleanse Earth, fewer than half remained operational, and those were scattered and demoralized. The Galactic Council's mighty fleet had been reduced to wreckage in less than an hour. I'm going to make you an offer, Vasquez said, her voice taking on a diplomatic tone. Withdraw from our system immediately. Return to your council and tell them exactly what you've seen here. Tell them that Earth is no longer a primitive world to be ignored or destroyed. We are now a power in this galaxy, and we will not be threatened. Again, Vextai's hands shook as he reached for his communications console. All ships, he broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. This is High Chancellor Vextai. Immediate withdrawal to hyperspace. All ships, immediate withdrawal. A wise choice, Vasquez said. But Chancellor, before you go, let me leave you with a thought. For 2 centuries, You believed you knew everything about humanity. You were wrong about our technology, wrong about our capabilities, and wrong about our potential. What else do you think you might be wrong about? The surviving council ships began jumping to hyperspace, their crews desperate to escape the nightmare that Earth had become. As the infinite justice prepared for its own jump, Vextai took one last look at the blue planet on his display.
What
Have we done? He whispered to himself. As the council fleet disappeared into hyperspace, the human ships began to fade from view, their cloaking systems rendering them invisible once again. But their message had been delivered with absolute clarity on Earth. In the Pacific Facilities Command Center, Admiral Torres watched the tactical display as the last enemy signatures vanished from the solar system. The room erupted in cheers and applause, but Torres remained calm and focused. "Signal all ships to return to base," he ordered, "and prepare a message for transmission to all galactic civilizations. It's time the universe knew that humanity has joined the game." Dr. Sarah Chen joined him at the tactical display, her eyes bright with the triumph of their success. "What happens now?" she asked. Torres smiled, looking out at the stars through the facility's observation windows. "Now we find out what it really means to be human in a galaxy that no longer underestimates us. The precursors left us their technology, but they also left us something more important. They left us the responsibility to use it wisely." He turned to face the assembled staff, all of them looking to him for guidance on what came next. "The age of hiding is over," he declared. "Humanity has emerged from the depths, and we will never be dismissed again. But with this power comes a choice. We can become the thing that once threatened us, or we can become something better, something worthy of the gift we've been given." As news of the battle spread across the galaxy, carried by the surviving council ships, a new chapter in galactic history began. Earth was no longer the primitive world at the edge of known space. It had become something far more dangerous and far more promising, a mystery that demanded respect, and in the depths of Earth's oceans, in facilities that no alien scanner could detect, humanity continued to unlock the secrets left behind by the precursors, preparing for whatever challenges the galaxy might bring next. Asterisk.